G'day guys, and welcome to another BlenderBuzz tutorial. Today I'm going to be teaching you some of the basic brushes in Blender and how to use them. And I'm going to show you a little bit of the technique that I use to sculpt. Now this is not a character tutorial, it's not a, I'm not going to show everything. It's just essentially to show you, if you're new to sculpting, what are some of the different brushes are and what are the best ones to use. So I hope you guys find this video useful, and that if you like it, that you'll hit the like button below. Open up in Blender. Let's get right in. I'm going to go ahead and delete everything except the default cube, okay? And I'm going to enable my properties panel by pressing N. And there's this really cool feature in Blender called matte cap, okay? So if I scroll down to display or shading and I enable matte cap, you can see we get this interesting viewport material. Now the reason this is useful is when we're sculpting, these viewport materials kind of help us see the details better than just relying on the viewport, the standard viewport shader that we usually get. So I'm going to go and grab this red one here, which works really good for sculpting. And with my cube selected, I'm just going to simply go and subdivide it 2 times. I'm going to apply the subdivision surface modifier, and I am now going to go to sculpting mode. So with my cube here selected, I'm going to go click on sculpt mode. Now, before I can just start sculpting, there is something really important we need to do when we're sculpting, and that is to enable dynamic topology. Okay, if we did not enable dynamic topology and I just started sculpting, all it is going to do is move the vertices around. Just like we do when we're in edit mode, okay? In edit mode, all I'm doing is moving the vertices around. Now, if I'm in sculpt mode and I don't want to just move them around like edit mode, I have to enable dynamic topology. And you can see right now it's triangulated the mesh, okay? And that means that the dynamic topology is doing what it's supposed to do. And it is essentially now going to decimate the mesh everywhere we sculpt, to make sure that we can add the detail that we need to. Now, there are 2 main things that I usually, settings I usually use when I'm sculpting, and that is relative detail and constant detail. Now, I'm going to explain the first, okay? Relative detail means if I was this close and I started sculpting, it's going to base the scale of the deformation here on how close I am to the object. If I zoom out more, and now I do it, it's a little bit more coarse. If I go back more, it's even more coarse. So that is what relative is. If I wanted to have a constant detail on our mesh, all I have to do is go to constant detail. And like the name suggests, what that means, if I'm this close to my mesh and I'm sculpting, okay, or I'm this far away, it's still going to be the same density, sculpt density here. So to get started, I'm going to leave it on constant detail, and I'm going to grab a clay strips brush, and I'm just going to start laying out, okay, a basic shape here. And like I said, this tutorial is not about creating a final product, it's just to show you how the different brushes work. Now with my clay brush here, I'm going to increase the strength to 1 all the way. And the clay brush is a very good brush for starting to lay out your basic shape. Okay, so you move around in sculpting the same way you do in edit mode by middle mouse wheel. And if you want to actually sculpt, you left click on the mesh to apply your clay. Okay, so if I wanted to make a head, and I'll give you an example here, I can come here and I can start sculpting and laying out the basic shape. For example, I could come down here, start adding the neck, okay? I can come here, start adding the top of the head, back of the head here, and just laying out a rough shape. Now this is a really good practice to get into when you're sculpting, is to never start with details. We always start by roughly shaping out our object. So you can see here, I'm just roughly shaping out a head, okay? And I'm just moving around as I'm adding the clay. And like you can see, it's really low poly. And later on, we'll increase our scale, so we can start adding more detail. But we're just laying out our basic shape here, okay? just laying out a basic shape of an object, adding some clay where we need it. Okay, and yeah, I think that's good for now. And one thing that you'll notice is that this is mirroring over to the other side on the x-axis, but we don't have a mirror modifier applied. That's because Blender, okay, the sculpting features in Blender have this option called symmetry lock. And by default, your symmetry lock is set to X. And that is why everything on the X axis is mirroring over to the other side. So if I come here and add a bit of clay, the same thing happened on the other side. Okay. Now that I've established my rough shape here of my head, what I can do is go to my second brush, and this is the crease brush. Okay. Now the crease brush is the one I usually tend to use when I start laying out my first layers of detail. So what I'm going to do is, instead of having this on 30, I'm going to increase the detail to 12, and I'm just going to start creasing where I want there to be creases. Okay, so down here in the neck area, okay, I'm going to refine that a little bit more. On the back of the head here, okay, come up here like so, and the facial structure here, so where the eye sockets are going to kind of be. And I'm going to increase the strength just so I can get it done quicker. Okay, and we're just starting to establish a general shape. Okay, and like I said, we always keep things low detail, and we work our way to higher detail as we go on. Okay, so you can see here, I'm just using the crease brush to add creases, and I'm starting to just lay out my detail. Okay, I think that is good for now. So, what are some other brushes that are useful in sculpting? Well, one other brush that I also use a lot is the pinch brush here. And what the pinch brush does is it will pull, say for example you have this crease here, it'll pull these vertices closer together to refine your crease. So if I increase the strength here and I just pull this across here, you can see it's kind of sharpening up the neck. And if I come here and I decrease the detail size to 8, if I move across here, you can see, voila, it's making it nice and sharp. Okay, so I can really increase the detail of my creases. Okay, now one other thing that I always do while I'm sculpting is I kind of use the smooth brush and just set it on a lower setting, and then I just kind of smooth out a little bit. Okay, so the whole process of when you start off sculpting object is you're essentially just laying layers of clay and starting to block out your basic shape. And you can use your smooth brush just to keep things a little bit neat as you're working, but don't get too crazy with the smoothing, because like I said, we're just starting to create our basic form. We're not looking to have this perfectly smooth, shiny sculpt. We're just starting to lay out and starting to determine what our character is going to look like. Okay, or whatever object you're sculpting. You might be sculpting a hand, you might be sculpting a head or whatever. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my clay strips, and this is now where I do the second level of detail. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm no longer going to be working in constant detail, but I'm going to be working in relative detail. So if I enable relative and I make this 5, okay, and I decrease my strength to about 0.5, now I can move in and I can start to lay out, okay, my second layer of detail. Okay, so I'm going to create some eyebrow ridges here, and this is a really good tool for adding clay. Okay, and if it's adding too much clay, just decrease the strength. If it's adding too little, just increase the strength. Okay, so like I said, second layer of detail, and I'm just starting to define what a lot of this is going to look like. Okay, so this is where his eye is going to be. Okay, his eye is going to be here. He's going to have a jaw structure here, so I'm going to emphasize on that a little bit more. Okay, create a bit of a jaw form down here, like so. And this is kind of like an alien creature, so it's not anthropomorphically accurate, but it is a good illustration. So where else can I add some clay? Here. And you can see I'm essentially just adding more detail. And you can see now that we're working in relative and we've decreased the detail, you can see we're starting to really get that pop now. It's starting to look really nice. And it doesn't look so low poly, okay? And every now and then, just stand back a little bit, have a look at your sculpt, and just grab your smooth brush and just smooth some of that out. Okay. So just always keep that in mind. Add clay, smooth it out. Don't worry about details yet. Details do not matter. We're just starting to block out the form. And sculpting, a really good illustration with sculpting is to think of painting. If you've ever done painting before, it's the exact same thing with sculpting. You start out blocking things out roughly, and as you continue, you'll slowly and gradually increase the detail. And it's the exact same thing with sculpting. You work with your brushes, okay, and you just add clay. Don't worry about details, just add it and start blocking out and building up detail, okay? Just keep building up that detail. I'm going to grab my crease brush here. I'm going to increase the pinch amount, increase the strength, and I'm just going to come down here to the neck and just add a little bit more of a crease. Grab my pinch tool and just pinch it here. Just move along here up to the neck. Grab my smooth tool and I'm just going to smooth out the neck here, like so. And you can see just really quickly we're starting to create this awesome looking character just by laying down some very basic strips of clay. And it wasn't hard to do at all. You know, just look around, see what you want to do, and then just add some clay there. So for example, if I wanted him to have a bit of a ridge here, I just lay some blobs of clay here, okay, like so. And then later on, I can come in here and I can start to add my detail, but I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to roughly start to shape out this detail on his head, like so. Grab my smooth brush and just smooth as I go. And this is essentially all it is. It's just laying down your clay, standing back, having a look, smoothing it out a little bit, then grabbing your clay brush again, moving in, and then adding your secondary layers of detail. Okay, so that's all I'm doing. I'm just building up detail with my different brushes. Okay, and the clay brush by far is the best brush to do this. The clay strips, and it's really interesting because this is the exact same way that you'd sculpt in real life. You'd grab strips of clay and you'd kind of lay them down on a base, and you'd kind of just work your way up in the detail. And you can see here, just laying down these strips, like so. Still relatively low detail, but just working our way up to that. Okay, grabbing my crease brush, add a crease here, one there, just defining some of these shapes a little bit more. And decreasing the size, just pulling it across here, building up my detail, nothing complicated at all. Maybe round these off a little bit, just like that. Okay, so you can see using those free brushes that we were using, we've created this really cool looking shape relatively quickly. Now I'm going to quickly jump this into time lapse, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you some of the tools I used and some of the techniques I used. Okay, so I've done some more sculpting here. You can see I've created a body for him. Now I'm going to show you some of the brushes I used here and some of the techniques that I used to make some of these features. Now you can see here I have a lot of these details on the neck here, and what I did is I got the crease brush, okay, I increased my pinch value all the way, I set the strength up high, and then I just moved across where I wanted some detail, okay. So for example, I want some ridges in this neck here, so I'm just creating these grooves to get started with, okay, but they still don't look like proper neck ridges. So what I do then is I come around here, and then I do the same thing up here, and that just kind of blends them in and makes them look more organic, just like this. And then I grab the clay brush, I move over here just to bring them out a little bit, do the same here, same up here on the neck, and then I just get my smooth brush, set the strength down low, and just move over them just to smooth things up, okay, just like so. And very quickly I just created this nice detail in the neck, and over here in the chest, if I want to create some more detail, I can do the same thing, okay, kind of make these muscles stand out a little bit more. Bring this up here, then I'm going to get the pinch tool and just pinch them down here like so, move up like that, then I grab my smooth brush and I just smooth things out till they look blended together. So using this technique, okay, you can very quickly build up detail, and then I'll just grab my clay brush every now and then and add some material where I feel that it is needed. Okay. And to create these muscles, all I do essentially is I just create these strips. Okay, I'm just laying down strips where the muscles need to go. Okay, just laying down strips. Then I kind of stand back, have a look. Might need some more here. Add some more strips here. Then I grab my smooth brush and I just smooth those out like so. And I did the same thing at the back here for these muscles here. Okay, I just go over here with my crease brush, do the same thing down here. Then I grab my pinch brush, I just move over them to tighten those up, make them look a little bit cleaner. I grab my smooth brush and I just clean those up like so. Okay, and like you can see, I'm primarily using my crease, my clay, and my smooth brush. Okay, and these brushes will do most of the things you need in sculpting. In fact, you could really do everything with them, but these other brushes are there to make things easier for you, but we'll get into some of those in a little bit. But you can see here I'm using the crease brush wherever I need this crevices, and I'm using my clay strips to build up where I need to build up. Okay, so I need to build up here a little bit, then I just use my clay, and then to make it all blend in, I just blend it in with my smooth brush. And that's essentially all it is. That's every project I've ever sculpted works on this technique. It works perfectly well, and it's really simple to do. Sculpting a lot of times seems intimidating, but once you get used to it and you learn some of the how to use these tools and you practice, you'll get really good at sculpting really quickly. It didn't take me long at all to get the hang of sculpting in Blender, even when I just started out. So you guys should be fine. Okay, blending this. Now, what are some of the other tools we can use? Now, we've used the clay strips, the crease. I think we've used this one as well. Another tool I use is the grab brush. Now, the grab brush is really fun to use because you can move things around really quickly, but you have to be careful with it so that you don't distort things you don't want to distort. But for example, if I want to bring this shoulder down, all I have to do is grab it. So this is essentially for moving large bits at a time. Okay. Now if you wanted to rotate some mesh, what you can do is you can go grab the rotate tool. Okay, so for example, if I wanted to rotate, go to the front and rotate his muscles a little bit, I can use this. Okay, I can use it here Okay, add some chest details here, like so. So you can use that tool. Another tool you can use is the nudge tool, and this one is to kind of move clay around. Okay, it's really good for making wrinkles on the chest. I use a lot for that. If I come in here and quickly show you. So just pulling it down like that kind of creates this wrinkly skin effect, like you can see in there. So it's really useful for that kind of thing. Okay, what else is there? There's also the yeah, some of these other tools. The thumb tool, you can use that. That's kind of like if you wanted to make like little notches, you can use this. It works really good. You just pull down. I use it a lot of times to make little spikes. Okay, so you can practice with that, or you can pull it outwards to create. It doesn't want to work. I think it's because the normals. If I use it there, you can see it kind of pulls this out. Okay, and another tool that's very fun to use, especially if you're going to make like tentacles, is the snake hook tool. Okay, now the snake hook tool is one of my favorites, and I'll quickly show you why. If I want to make a tentacle coming out here, all I do is grab the mesh and I just pull like so. I want a tentacle coming out here. I want a tentacle coming out here. I can very quickly add these little details like so. Like you can see, if I want to make something there, make some horns coming out here like so. Okay, so you can very quickly create a really complicated looking character just using these basic little tools. Then you can come in here, smooth things up a little bit, just like that. Nothing complicated. So yeah, another thing I forgot to show you is you can also enable smooth shading in here, so everything looks nice and smooth. Cool. So I'm gonna leave it at that. So I encourage you guys to practice a little bit, see what you can do. Use the clay strip to start building up your detail, and then you can use the crease brush to make your creases, and then you can use a smooth brush to kind of blend things together. And yeah, so keep practicing, and I'll do some more tutorials on sculpting where I'll show you how we make some features. I'll go more into depth on how to create a facial structure and how to do some body sculpting, but this is just a really quick basic tutorial to kind of help you guys just to get started with sculpting in Blender and to know what approach to take and how to practice. Okay, so I hope you guys take something away from this, that you like this video, and subscribe for future content.